So, on today's episode, we are going to be discussing Christians and politics. Should Christians get involved in politics? And if you do get involved, what party should you be in? Well, we're going to talk about that on today's episode. Welcome to the Freedom of the Pulpit podcast, where faith, life, culture will collide, and they will collide harmoniously. I am your host, Minister Frankie, Reverend Frankie. So glad that you are here. And before we continue, if you're watching this moment, if season 1 was a blessing to you and season 2 is being of a blessing to you at this moment, please go ahead and press that like button. And also, if you want to, which would be very much appreciated, hit that subscribe button so you can get the following episodes that we are going to be uploading. We are going to continue to upload more episodes. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for the warm welcomes, for the appreciation, for you guys taking the time out to listen to my podcast, the different episodes. I am so appreciative of each and every one of you guys. I thank you and I bless you wholeheartedly. Thank you for all the guests that I have had in the past, and I want to thank all the guests that I'm going to have in the future. I have a couple more guests lined up. Well, let me not say lined up. I haven't asked them yet, but I have a couple of more guests that I have in mind that I want to bring on, that I truly believe that are going to be a blessing to each and every one of you. But on today's episode, we are going to talk about Christianity or Christians and politics. Should we get involved in politics? Should we stay away from politics? Should we not speak about those things amongst ourselves as a believer, as a Christian? Should we get involved in these things? And I truthfully believe that yes, we should. I believe that as a Christian, we should get involved in politics. We should get involved in politics, in the discussions of politics. And that mindset wasn't there when I was younger. Growing up, we were always told that we should involve ourselves in politics. Growing up, we were told, don't talk about those things. Don't speak on those things. Don't speak on those subjects. Basically, all in all, do not get involved at all in politics, in the discussion of the same. And growing up, that's what I did. I did not talk about it. Whenever anybody tried to get into it, I would not only shy away, but I would distance myself. I will never bring it up. And not bringing it up, what it did is that I also stayed away from learning about it, about knowing about politics and how politics actually affects, to an extent, affects our lives here in this country and those type of discussions. So I stayed away completely. But now that I'm getting older, now I'm realizing more that Christians should be involved in politics, in discussions of politics. Now, interestingly enough, when I was younger, I've always been a Christian. And if you guys haven't heard of my story, you guys can go back to season 1 when I speak about my upbringings as a Christian young boy. And yes, I was always close to the church and always maintained myself close to the church. But since politics wasn't discussed, biblical characters, biblical people were never mentioned or thought of that way. But if we actually look within our Bibles, we have different characters, we have different people in the biblical time that were involved in politics in some way, shape, or form. And we can look at a person like Nehemiah, Daniel. Some people say a Moses. You could look at a guy like Joseph, like an Ezra, like a Mordecai. See, these different biblical characters, these different biblical people were involved in some way, shape, or form in politics. Some might say even Solomon. And the reason I don't want to bring up Solomon is because, man, if you've read the scripture and you go down the line of his political moves, it weren't all that good spiritually. But these people, in some way, shape, or form, were involved in politics. Nehemiah sat next to the king of Medo-Persia, and he was his cupbearer, to the point that when Nehemiah seemed upset, he asked them, "Hey, what's up? What's going on? What's wrong with you?" Now, if Nehemiah wasn't important, if he was just a regular cupbearer, he would have no need to ask him that. But just the simple fact that he asked Nehemiah, that he came to Nehemiah and wanted to know his state of mind, his state of being, his emotional state, lets us know that Nehemiah was somebody that he trusted. And if he trusted him, Nehemiah was a person that he confided in certain moves, certain ways of thinking. So in some way, shape, or form, Nehemiah was involved in politics in a way. Mordecai got his niece involved, right? Prince Esther. She became a queen. Now, Esther was also in some way, shape, or form in politics, because now we see nowadays that first ladies of the United States get involved in politics and doing certain things and sitting down with other ambassadors of different countries and so on and so forth. So we see that they are also involved in a way in politics. So we can say that about Esther. Joseph, second in command in Egypt. No one else higher than him in Egypt but the Pharaoh, meaning that he had to make political decisions for the country. So we see throughout the Bible that there have been people involved in politics. So growing up and studying the Bible more and getting into the Bible more, I began to see these characters and I began to study these characters and I began to see their lives. And now I was able to see that, you know what, politics is not as bad or as evil as we paint it to be hypothetically, right? Because we do understand there is a dark side to politics. We already know that. But I believe that we as believers, us as Christians, should get involved in some way, shape, or form, because these are the people that we are going to place in office that are going to pass rules and regulations that is going to affect our lives in some way, shape, or form. And here in the United States, you have that right to voice your opinion and voice your opinion by a ballot. Let us get together as people. Let us get together as a community. Let us get together and let's place the people that will most likely serve the benefit of us as a collective, as a people. Here in this country, you are given that right. Let's get together. I don't like what he's saying. I don't like what she's saying. I like what he said. I like what she said. Let me vote for him or her. Let me not vote for him and her. Let me put the right assembly man and woman in place, so on and so forth, right? I don't want to get too deep into that, right? On who should you have voted for and getting into the intricacies of the different policies that govern our states, our cities, and then govern our country. I'm not going to get too deep into that. I'll leave that for another episode with wonderful guests. But for this episode, I just want to mention that, yes, if you're a believer, you should be in some way, shape, or form involved in politics because it is going to affect you. Yes, the scripture says that we are not of this world, but yet at the same time, we are living here. And while we are living here, God has given us the mind, the wisdom, and the knowledge to be able to affect certain things around us, certain people around us, by placing them in different positions. Now, how is that, right? How can I also prove that biblically? Very simple. King Saul wasn't chosen by God. King Saul was chosen by the people. God said, don't worry about it, Samuel. They haven't rejected you. They rejected me because the people wanted a king. Now, was there a process to choose that king? Yes, but it was the people that kept begging, for a king, even though afterwards God told them, you guys are going to pick somebody that's going to put a yoke on not only you, but also going to put a yoke on your children. But this is what you guys want, so this is what I'm going to give you. This is who they chose. Instead of being governed by God, they wanted to be governed just like everyone else, and that's how he was chosen. So we do have that to an extent. We do have that kind of power. So yes, I truthfully believe as believers, we should get involved in politics. Yes. Now, here in the United States, we have two major parties. We have the Republican Party and we have the Democratic Party. Now, you can run as an independent, and at the airing of this episode, right now, the mayor of our city, Eric Adams, he is going to run again, but he's going to run as an independent. Right now, he got in under the Democratic ballot. But when he runs again for mayor, he's not running under the Democratic Party anymore. He's going to be running under the Independent Party. So you can run for positions in a different form. Let me just say that, right? Or a different party. But the two major ones in this country is the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And boy, oh boy, are we split on that. And I think that's the heart. I think that's the heart of where I'm coming from, right? Because now I see that we are divided as a Christian community, as a Christian body, on the party that we choose to defend. We are divided on the party that we choose to defend. So, which party should you join? Right? Should you join the Republican Party? Should you join the Democratic Party? Well, I'm here to tell you that you join whichever party you think benefits your morality, ideology, your feelings, your thoughts. Very simple. Because I believe that we shouldn't be dividing ourselves as a Christian community, as a Christian body, on the party that we choose to support. In the church that I belong to, we have Democrats and we have Republicans, and neither side are shy about saying that, which party they belong to. But yet at the same time, and this is what I love, at the same time, after they have their discussions and they give each other their tidbits on their parties, they're able to come together and still worship the name of the Lord in unison. And I think that's the importance, that we should not let our political alliances or our political views separate us within the church to the point that we can't worship God together, or to the point that we begin to bash each other or demean each other because of the political views that we might have, or because of the political party that we might affiliate ourselves with. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am, and you're not going to find this terminology anywhere. I made it up, right? But I am a liberal Republican. That's what I am. I am a liberal Republican. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the reason I say that I'm a liberal Republican is because the Republican Party is a bit more, not a bit, the Republican Party is conservative, right? And because of my morals, because of my Christian belief, I am very conservative in my views. But yet at the same time, because of the type of person that I am not afraid to step outside of the box once in a while, right? The thought of being a quote unquote progressive, hypothetically, I don't think the word is hypothetically, being progressive in its based idealistic form, I am in agreement, right? When we are talking about advancement in medicine, advancement in humanity, advancement, the big topic nowadays is advancement in AI, right? I am for those things. Speaking about the church, if I'm going to speak on the church, I am okay with which is called nowadays liberal, which I don't think it is, allowing, just to use an example, allowing quote unquote pants on the altar, of females wearing pants on the altar. I know that's a very benign view. I know that's a very benign example, right? But we can't take away the fact that there are still some churches that are ultra conservative that do not allow pants on the altar. They don't allow makeup in their church. There are still churches like that till this day, right? The big topic also is, should women be pastors? Should women be preachers and teachers, right? That's a hot topic, you can say, in the Christian community. The reason I say that I'm a liberal is because I am for that. I am okay with women preaching and women teaching and women being pastors of the church. And interestingly enough, we can find evidence within the scriptures of those things. But yet there's evidence within the scriptures of also people saying, no, they cannot. So it's something that I heard Mark Driscoll said is an in-house fight that we have, right? But we don't divide over the major doctrines. That's one of the things, right? But things like that, we can have a nice discussion of. And that's the reason why I say I'm liberal, because I don't mind stepping out the box a bit, right? But yet at the same time, because of my religious views, because of my walk with Christ, let me just say that, because of my relationship with Jesus Christ, it points me a little bit more, not a little bit, it points me a lot more to be conservative. And that's the reason why I resonate with the Republican Party. That does not mean that if a Democrat stands up and he aligns with my biblical views, my moral views, and also my political views on the advancement of people within my community, it doesn't mean that I won't vote for them in the future. See it? Liberal, Republican, I'm not afraid to step outside the box, because you're not going to put me in a box that I have to vote Republican all the time. And it could be the opposite also for Democrat. Like, you don't have to vote Democrat all the time. And that's the only box that I'm in, that you're going to put me in. I remember my favorite rapper, he said this, Sho Baraka. He mentioned this in one of his songs, that we are just giving away votes, but we got to make them Democrats earn it. And to me, that spoke volumes, because sometimes we are just voting blindly, not knowing exactly who we are voting for and the policies that are going to be instituted that are going to affect our lives. But also, the reason I lean more with the Republican Party, and this is more of a personal sentiment, is because the Republican Party was the first party that gave Black America the opportunity to have a voice. The Republican Party were the first party that allowed Black Americans to sit in the Senate, to sit in the House, to hold a political office. It was the Republican Party. And this happened during the period of 1859 and 1865, or maybe a little bit beyond. That is considered the period of Reconstruction. And as soon as the 13th Amendment passed and the abolition of slavery, Black folks now started voting, and they were able to get in. And the first politicians, the first Black Americans that took office, not only were the Republicans, but they were ministers, they were clergy. These men, as believers, decided, you know what, I'm going to go with the one that allowed me to actually have some kind of voice. Now, when did the shift happen? Now, I'm not going to get into that either here in this podcast, but real quick, the shift happened right around 1950, 1960, with the rise, you can say, for lack of better words, the rise of JFK. Black folks changed parties during that time because of the promises that were given to them by JFK. And that's when the shift happens. That's when Black America shifted from being Republican to Democrat, the majority, right? But I'm not going to get too deep into that. But that's when the shift happens. But in the beginning, it was the Republican Party. Now, who should you vote? You vote for whoever you feel aligns with your views and your thoughts. But because your brother or your sister aligns with a specific party, do not allow that to divide you guys. You should be able to, as believers, you should be able to sit down, have a conversation, express your views, and then be able to go have a tea and a crumpet. I don't know, a cappuccino and a croissant, something. Black coffee and a double chocolate muffin. I don't know, something. You should be able to go out and eat with your fellow brother and with your fellow sister in spite of their affiliation. And what I'm seeing is that there is this fear in church to be able to say, well, I align with this person, because we feel, even in church, we feel as if we are going to be attacked by our fellow brother or our fellow sister. And I believe that our church should be a space that people feel free to express themselves, not only in a social way, not only in a spiritual way, but also within the realm of politics. Because as I stated before, we have the power to make changes on who we vote in, on what judge we are allowed to sit in certain districts, in certain courts. Is this judge a little bit more strict? Is this judge a little bit more loose on certain things? Is this assembly person really establishing programs for our city, programs for our neighborhoods? Are they really doing that? Are they really speaking on that? We have the power to vote these people in. And why not have the space to be able to not only speak our minds, but share our thoughts? Maybe I don't know everything about this specific candidate that you might know, that has been hidden from me because I have blinders on. And then maybe I can learn something of this person, of that person. So yes, I believe that in church, you should speak about politics, but not only that, get into it, learn more about it. And two, your political party shouldn't affect my relationship with you. None whatsoever. We might have different views. We are going to have different views, but that shouldn't make me treat you any less than because of your views. Man, I see that constantly on Facebook and Instagram, the mudslinging because of a specific view. Let them do that. Let them do the mudslinging. We shouldn't get down to that level that we begin to mudsling or throw mud at a brother or a sister or a church or religious leader because of their political affiliation. I mean, hey, if you don't like a specific person because of the political views, okay, I hear you. You're not going to like everybody. I got you. But for you to then take personal shots and personal attacks towards that person because they align, because that person voted Republican, because that person, that Christian person aligns with Trump, because that Christian person voted for Biden, because that Christian person was aligning themselves with Kamala Harris. Different views are going to exist, and I truthfully believe that's fine, because in our different views, I believe that there will be growth. There needs to be some kind of tension. There needs to be some kind of pressure, right? Not everything can be easy. There's no growth when everything is easy. There is no stretching when everything is easy. You bring your views, I'll bring my views. We'll put them on the table. We'll see which views are better or which view serves the community better, right? But yet at the same time, those different views should not allow me to now mock you and criticize your character because of it. So church, let's do better. Let's do better. Let's create a space where people can actually come and say, you know what? I am a Republican. I am a Democrat. I am a socialist. I am an independent, without us looking at them as if they have a third eye. Let's create a space, that safe space, where people can come and share their opinions, even if they're wrong. Even if their opinion is wrong, we should allow them the space to make their wrong statements. Because if you have the truth and you show it to them, what does the scripture says about the truth? It shall set you free. And if we can do that, you know what? I was wrong. My bad. I thought about it that way, or I thought about it this way, but now that you bring this up, I didn't know. You know what? I'm going to go home and let me do a little bit more research. Let me understand this a little bit more. And we'll come back and we'll sit down and talk. And I think that's what we're missing. We're missing the fact that we are talking at each other, but we're not talking to each other. We are talking at each other, but we're not talking to each other. We're not communicating. We're not allowing the other person, the other side, to speak and to express how they feel. And yet at the same time, when they're actually doing that, are we listening or are we blocking them off? Or are we just waiting for them to stop talking so then we can talk? We have to be able to sit down and put all these things down on the table and have a logical conversation. Is it going to get emotional? Of course. You're tied to that specific political view, so your emotions will be involved. But we have to learn and we have to be able to not allow those emotions to blind us, to cloud our judgment to the point that we become offensive. Man, so Christians in politics, one of these days, I would love to have a Christian Republican and a Christian Democrat on the podcast for them to have a discussion, not an argument, for them to have a discussion on their views. Man, I remember watching a couple of months ago, I remember watching a video on YouTube, and it was with Dr. Michael Brown. Dr. Michael Brown is someone that I enjoy watching. I learned so much from Dr. Michael Brown. I have learned so much from Dr. Michael Brown. But on this specific video that he had, he was speaking on eschatology, right? And he had somebody on that differ from his views. So to be more specific, they were speaking about the tribulation. Dr. Michael Brown is a post-tribulation guy. The person that he had on was a pre-tribulation guy. And what I enjoyed the most from that conversation was the accolades that they were giving each other in spite of their polar opposite views, because their views are polar opposite. But yet at the same time, they had a discussion and they had so much respect for each other. And to me, that was more enlightening than them presenting their views. And I believe that we should be able to do that also within the sphere of politics, because we should definitely be in it. There's so many biblical examples of Christians being involved in politics. And I know that when it comes to politics nowadays, is the temperature is high. The tension can be felt. But I believe that once we begin to actually sit down and talk to each other, and not only talk, but listen to the point of view and see which one makes sense, I truthfully believe that relationships, because I was going to say things will get better, but we all know that in eschatology, things are not going to get better. Things are going to get worse. But relationships can get better. Treatment of other human beings can get better. I truly hope that we can get there someday. I truly do. Something that I'm really, really looking forward to, because we begin to see that once we're able to do that, people will be better. People will definitely be better. I was having a conversation with a friend, and the conversation was about the pandemic and how nice people were during the pandemic. And he said, well, in 2-3 years, that's going to stop. And we're going to go back to being ourselves again. And he was in line. That's exactly what happened. People stop being nice to each other. And we see when people are not being nice to each other, tensions rise. If you're going to speak on a more urban level, street politics level, let me just say that, the less nice that we are each other, the more crime, the more violence. And during the pandemic, we didn't have that. Why am I saying that? Because right now, the tension, because of the president that we have at this moment, the tensions are so high that there's certain situations that all they need is a small spark for the tension to explode. And if we just treated people, ourselves, with a different view, with a different viewpoint, with a different political stand, if we treated them better, I truthfully believe that this tension will diminish. And not only will it diminish, but it will make the social climate in our country much better. I truthfully believe that. Man. So church and politics, Christians and politics. As I mentioned before, next time that we have a conversation about this, hopefully I can bring somebody on that are polar opposites so we can have a fruitful conversation. But I want to thank you at this moment. If you have made it this far into this episode, I want to thank you so much. And once again, please do not forget to hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple Music, please hit that like button. Help the podcast grow. If you believe that this is going to bless somebody, or if you believe that this podcast is blessing somebody, please, it takes no more than a second. Just hit that like button. And also, if you can find it in your heart to share it along with somebody that you believe that will be blessed by this. So if you have done that, thank you so much. I bless you at this moment. And thank you for joining me on this ride. It has been a ride. This past year has been a ride. But I thank God for his hand. I thank God for his provision. I thank God for his guidance. I am so grateful of the God that I serve. And I'm so grateful that he has given us, and I mean that wholeheartedly, us, this platform, Freedom of the Pulpit Podcast. So once again, if you're on YouTube, subscribe and like. If you're on Spotify, if you're listening on Spotify, hit that like button. And if you're listening also in Apple Music, I think it's Apple Music, it should be Apple Music, also hit that like button. Help me fight this algorithm. Help me spread this message. Once again, if you believe that this has been a blessing to you, God bless you. God keep you. May the Lord continue to bless the rest of your day. Take care. God bless.